Ever looked at a graph and wondered, what does this really tell me? Understanding how to interpret data is crucial, not just for passing tests, but for making sense of the world around us. Data interpretation is a key skill for making sense of these visual representations. For the AP Psychology test, there are four main skills: concept application, research methods and design, data interpretation, and argumentation. Today, let's focus on data interpretation. Let's look at this topic through a story. Imagine you're at a science fair walking past various projects. One table catches your eye. A student is presenting a project on sleep habits and their effect on test scores. There are colorful charts and graphs, but what do they all mean? First, let's talk about identifying variables. In the sleep project, the variables might be the number of hours slept and the test scores. Spotting these variables in graphs and tables is the first step. Think of variables as the ingredients in a recipe. You need to know what each one is to understand the final dish. Next, we need to understand statistical concepts. This includes measures like the mean, average, median, middle value, and mode, most frequent value. For instance, if the average test score increases with more sleep, that's a trend you can identify. It's like figuring out the average score of your favorite team over a season. Another important concept is the normal curve, often called the bell curve. This curve shows how data is spread out. Most data points fall in the middle, with fewer points at the extremes. If the sleep data forms a bell curve, you can tell that most students' test scores are around the average, with a few very high and very low scores. You also need to understand skewness. If most data points are on one side of the graph, it's skewed. For example, if most students get high scores but a few get very low scores, the graph is skewed to the left. Imagine a classroom where most students are either very tall or very short, with few in between. Sometimes, data can form a bimodal distribution, meaning there are two peaks. Maybe in the sleep study, there are two groups. You have students who sleep a lot and those who sleep very little, both getting similar scores. This is like having two popular pizza toppings that everyone prefers. But why is this important? Because these patterns tell stories. They help us understand relationships, like how sleep might affect test scores. Imagine you decide to test this yourself. You gather data from your classmates and create your own graphs. You notice a trend. More sleep leads to better scores, but there's an exception. One student sleeps a lot, but has poor scores. What's going on? This anomaly can teach you a lot. Maybe there are other factors at play, like stress or study habits. By interpreting your data, you learn that while sleep is important, it's not the only factor. In conclusion, data interpretation isn't just about numbers and graphs. It's about understanding the stories they tell and asking questions that lead to deeper insights. So next time you see a chart, remember, there's a story waiting to be uncovered, and who knows? Maybe your interpretation will lead to discovery. The first discovery it will lead to is how to get a 5 on your 2025 AP Psychology exam.